And we're finally back. Anyways, welcome back, cheerleaders and all you spectacular Spidey fans out there, to a really long overdue, infectious installment of Radioactive review. So, of course, the last Radioactive review that I did was for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, and that was all the way back in 2017, and right now it is May of 2018, and we are 4 months away from Spider-Man PS4. However, I have been very, very busy covering the game, as well as doing stuff, of course, in my normal life, so I haven't been able to actually do any reviews for the past Radioactive replays that I've actually finished, such as this one with Spider-Man Friend or Foe, Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2002, Spider-Man 3 on the PS2, as well as, of course, the most recently finished Spider-Man 2. However, I'm going to make a promise to you guys that it is my goal up until E3 2018 that I'm going to try and put out all the remaining Radioactive reviews that I can possibly muster until we also play Spider-Man PS1 coming soon, which is going to be very, very fun. And of course, before we get into the main review, I have huge shoutouts to the one and only Mikhail Conlate and also Ricky Franklin for being such amazing, awesome individuals, part of the Spidey Squad, for helping me with the thumbnails for Spider-Man Friend or Foe. They were amazing and super talented, so please go and help them, support them as much as you can. And just thank you, Ricky and Mikhail, for all your support, because you guys are both awesome. So of course, if you are new to the channel, Radioactive Review is pretty self-explanatory. Basically, we're going to fully review every single aspect of the Spider-Man game that we just finished. In this case, it's going to be Spider-Man Friend or Foe, and fully break down things from the story, gameplay, graphics, as well as list a couple pros and cons about the game, and also point out the best moments and worst moments about the game, and then end it with my final score. And honestly, this might be my shortest Radioactive review yet, since there's not a lot of aspects to talk about this game, but it is still really interesting to discuss. So of course, let's start off with the story of this game. So this is where this game has a really interesting focal point about it, because it's basically considered to be Spider-Man 4. And what I mean by that is because this game kind of takes place in a pocket dimension of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie universe. This is because all the characters are designed to look just like how they look like in the Sam Raimi movies, and also the story kind of focuses around that kind of plot point from the past movies. Now, even though the game developers of Friend or Foe use the Sam Raimi movies as a building point for their game, this game actually does have a very interesting story. So basically, in the beginning of the game, you're recruited by Nick Fury, who is of course the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and throughout the game, you are tasked with a friend or a foe to go along with you on this globe-trotting adventure and try and take out the Phantoms to prevent the Phantom Invasion from happening and destroying the world. And of course, you find out by the end of the game that Mysterio is the big baddie who's in control of the Phantoms in the first place, and throughout the game you actually encounter some really interesting bosses that kind of help the story grow and actually continue in a really funny way. And given that this game is basically a standard beat-em-up, I do think that the story is actually pretty good. Now, next up isn't really something to talk about that much, is the graphics of the game, and of course this was back in 2007 when the PS2 era was kind of ending, but this game on a PS2 still looks actually pretty decent for when it was made, and I do think that the graphics still kind of hold up to this day because it has a very cartoonish vibe to it. All the characters have kind of cartoonish looking designs, and as for the locations that you can explore when playing the game, they're actually very well detailed, so I do appreciate the time and attention that the developers actually portrayed in these different locations that you can explore in the game. Now, next up is the soundtrack of the game, and for me personally, I actually really do like this game's music. This is mainly because each soundtrack actually tailors to either a different level that you are in within the game, such as a level within Nepal, or maybe in Tangaroa Island, or actually a different boss that you can fight within the game itself. And each time you beat the boss even more, the soundtrack builds off and gets even more epic, which I do like that amount of detail that was put into the music within this game. So overall, when you look at the game as it is as a simple beat 'em up, it actually is a pretty straightforward experience, but let's get more in depth with moving on to the cons and the pros. And as you guys know me, I sometimes like to go back and forth between talking about the cons first or the pros first, but this time I actually have quite a few cons and actually quite a lot of pros, so we're going to actually start off with the cons first and then move on to the pros. So the first con that I have about this game is that it is extremely repetitive, and that's mainly because it's a simple beat-em-up game. You just go around different levels, beating up bad guys, and then you fight your occasional boss once in a while, rinse and repeat. Straight and simple, back for a PS2 game. I can't really fault it for having a simple mechanic of just continuously beating up bad guys, but still, if you do just not want to keep fighting bad guys over and over again, you might get a bit tired of it, but still, that's just from a certain player's perspective. And surprisingly enough, the last con that I have about this game is that it's actually very, very easy. Now, of course, that's mainly because this game was meant for kids, and even though you do die quite often when fighting certain enemies, there's not that big of a risk when you actually do lose all your health in a certain level of the game. So when you're either fighting little enemies or heavy enemies, the challenge is very, very easy and not that difficult at all. Now, with those two very small cons out of the way, we are now going to move on with all the pros of the game. So the first pro that I have is that each of the environments in the game are very unique, ranging from Nepal, the Tangaroa Islands, Transylvania, ancient Egypt, and of course Tokyo, Japan. Even though it's very weird for a Spider-Man game to go around the world, it actually does feel like you are in these separate areas when you do have a friend with you and actually fighting all these different enemies that actually change their appearance and abilities when continuing through the game. And that just shows the amount of detail that the developers tried their best to put in within this game. So the next pro is actually relating to the buddy system, which of course when you either have a friend or a foe at your side to fight several enemies. Now of course, since this is a two-player game, you can either play this by yourself or with a friend. You can actually either switch between Spider-Man or your friend or foe whenever you do feel like. And each character has their own unique abilities, so it does feel like you're not just playing a reskinned character, but rather a different character that actually has something new to offer to the table. And that also goes for the hero strikes in the game, where you can actually just take out a bunch of enemies at once with really cool animation moves that look very, very cool and are very, very unique when you choose a different character to fight by your side. Next up is actually the co-op aspect of the game. So as I said earlier, this is in fact a two-player game where you can team up with a friend or a foe and actually just continue through the main story fighting a bunch of phantoms, or you can do competitive co-op and actually fight each other in the versus arena, where you can fight to the death as either Spider-Man versus against another villain or friend of yours, which is very, very fun, and that definitely offers some variety when playing the game. So the second to last pro I have about this game is the very intricate upgrade system within the game. So of course throughout the game you're completing levels and beating up different phantoms, as well as collecting a bunch of collectibles, and that gains you XP that you can use to either upgrade Spider-Man's combat, health, defense, or actually all of his different web maneuvers that you can use on enemies in the game. Or if you're feeling a bit more courteous, you can actually upgrade your friend or foe within the game as well and actually offer them new abilities that they can use on enemies, which is actually very cool. Plus, if you're playing with a friend, you'll actually be able to gain experience in a faster way if you team up more, which is very, very fun. And the last pro that I have with the game is basically a kind of form of New Game Plus. So once you beat the primary game, you can actually go back and replay all the previous levels that you just beat, either with the red suit equipped or the black suit equipped. So you can either play the game in the red suit and try and upgrade your remaining friends and foes, or if you actually want to gain more XP and be stronger and faster, you can equip the black suit and also fight alongside more friends and foes that you haven't been able to unlock previously. And given how this game was one of the last PS2 era Spider-Man games, that was actually pretty impressive that the game had some sort of New Game Plus aspect, because that wasn't seen a whole lot back in the PS2 days. And moving on near the end of this review, everybody, we are going to continue with the best and worst moment of the game and end it with my final score. So for me personally, I think the best moment of the game is all the different interactions that you can get with Spider-Man and all the friends or foes that you encounter throughout the game. This can either range from a cutscene or actually playing alongside of your friend or foe and fighting enemies during a level, but the interactions that Spider-Man has with all these characters is very, very funny. And I know for a fact when I was personally playing the game, I had a smile on my face the entire time. And as for what the worst moment of this game is, I would actually say playing it alone is actually really, really boring. This game was meant to be a co-op game where you can play with your friend, and that is where all the fun is. So if you're just playing the game by yourself and switching between Spider-Man and your friend or foe, it's not going to be as fun as playing it with a buddy of yours. And even though I did have fun personally replaying the game by myself, it would have been more fun if I had someone to play it with. But overall, guys, this game is nothing special, but it still is actually a pretty fun experience when you go back and replay it yourself. It's just a straight, simple beat 'em up where you can just have a friend at your side and fighting with you, which makes it even more fun. And even though the graphics aren't that appealing, the gameplay is a bit repetitive, I do think that overall you will have a fun time with this game. And for all the reasons I just provided, I'm going to give this game my final score of a 7 out of 10. It's obviously not the greatest Spider-Man game of all time, but I still think that you'll have a pretty fun time when playing it. But anyways, guys, that was my Radioactive review finally for Spider-Man Friend or Foe. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and make sure to stay tuned for all the upcoming Radioactive reviews that you will see before E3 2018. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below, everybody. What do you think about Spider-Man Friend or Foe? Do you like it, love it, or hate it? And make sure to stay tuned to the next Radioactive review, which is going to focus around Spider-Man 2002, and just for you guys, here's a sneak peek of the intro for that Radioactive review coming soon. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Peace out.